Hello and welcome to the second power rankings on this channel. Unlike the first one, these ones are A, very late, and B, only going to be done by me, which makes them, better. Yeah. My name is Keith, and yeah, I am power ranking the drafts for the WPF World Pokemon Federation Season 15 for their Steel division. Steel is historically, and I think has always been low tier, and this time it is a low tier format that is, well, I forget, like it's like technically like 6 points and under or something like that, or 4 points and under. I'm just calling it really fucking low tier, because that's what it is. How low tier are we talking? Well, here we go. These are the top 4 tiers of our tier list that you can use. These were the draftable Pokemon for our Pokemon in the WPF Steel Division Season 15 for the low tier drafts. I am stumbling over my words, dear God. Anyway, yeah, this is what they look like. Like, this was the top Mons. The best Mons in the format are Charizard, Tauros, Copperaja, Salgor, like this sort of level, right? So I think we have to keep this in context when it comes to actually talking about the Pokemon on this team, when we're thinking about the power level of Pokemon, when I, sort of talk about how good of Pokemon is in this meta, just everything needs to be done with this context. Now, when you've got a really low power sort of metagame, I don't know if you can rank it like a regular PRs. You kind of can. There are some things that are universal, like type matchups, but even then, like for example, there are some teams that are weak to Fairy, and I was criticizing that, but the more I did this format, the more I realized, wait a minute, every Fairy type in this format's fucking useless. So, yeah. But it's the things that are sort of really important, at least that I thought. There was 3 things that I thought were really important when I sort of did these power rankings, right? One was knockoff, because with such a small pool of Pokemon, such low power, there's going to be a lot more EVO light just in general, and also other, Pokemon are going to be reliant a lot more on their items to be able to sort of, I think, reach these, reach specific goals. Like, offensive Pokemon, for example, might need to have Choice Band or Life Orb to be able to break certain Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon might have Boots, or else they get completely destroyed, so being able to knock those off, it's really important. I just think with worse Pokemon, items becomes more important, so getting rid of the items is a lot more important. And it's actually pretty interesting that that's how that works, because, I mean, as bad as interesting as, fucking talking about Pokemon drafts can be, because there's been a lot of knockoff added to the game in the most recent 2 DLCs. Before the DLCs, where knockoff was so scared. Actually, wait, this is Natdex. What am I talking about? Oh, then again, there was still a lot of Pokemon that got knockoff this gen, but, just ignore everything I'm saying, I think is a good idea. Yeah, so not good. What's also good is the hazard game, so both the ability to set them and the removers. In this low power format, you're really, really gonna want to have rocks and spikes and T-spikes, because they really help wear down checks and allow the strong Pokemon to just sort of break through, muscle through stuff a lot better. And yeah, when you just have less power on things, the small amount of damage from rocks and spikes and T-spikes really starts to stack up. So being able to deny that and being able to set them seem really good to me. And then the third important thing that I sort of based everything off was vibes. Just how much I vibe with the team. Which 100% means that if you're ranked low, it's a you problem. And, I just think you should become better. Yeah. Really, it's just do I like the teams on it? Because honestly, power rankings at the best of times are subjective messes, and this is going to be the most subjective mess of all. So, let's move on to number 16. We've got Bloop, the Moody Marshadow. This team, I'm just not into it, okay? Vibes-wise, it's very low. Very, very low amount of vibes, unfortunately. I think I kind of like 2 of the Pokemon on this team, Misdreavus and the Haunch, and that's about it. Not in terms of, in battle, but just do I like them as Pokemon? Um, Positives-wise, I guess, I think the team's pretty fast for this sort of meta. And it's got, like, some decent immediate power. I think Honchkrow with U-turn is really big, and they do have, like, the one kinda usable sort of fairy in the format. So that's kinda cool. But, like, I don't know what this team kinda does in terms of winning the game, I guess. Like, it's got nothing where I look at it and I go, okay, this wins the game. You know, like, I guess there's, like, a Carmine Delcremie, I guess, but, like, I think most things, like, I get what they do, I just don't have any game... I don't see any game sealers here, you know? Like, I see Manectric, it can, like, do trick switcheroo shenanigans, it can just be a decently fast pivot Pokemon, it can hit things kind of well. I see Sandaconda, that's a bulky Pokemon, that can, you know, like, set rocks, it can start Sandstorm to chip stuff. I see Cryogonal that can run the boots and spin on everything, and, you know, like, I can see what everything here kind of does, but I just don't know how that all comes together and wins a game, I suppose. I don't know. It's just, like, it's not a team that sparks joy, I guess, to me. Look, there's a lot of removal here, which is really good. Like, a lot of removal, which is really good, especially for Honchkrow, because not having to run boots on Honchkrow and being able to run Choice Band, Life Orb, that sort of shit, really juices the power of Honchkrow's moves and its ability to make progress here. So that's pretty cool. There's also, like, there's not that many pivots. Granted, you know, I think I want every team to have nothing but U-turns and Volt Switches, but this only has two, which is Honchkrow and Manectric, and they are two of the better Pokemon on this team. But, like, I don't know. It's also just got, like, I don't know, I think the big issue, though, is that its type sort of matchups defensively are fucking bad, eh? Like, there's one Fire Resist, and one Flying Resist, and one Psychic Resist. And there are a lot of pretty fucking strong Flying and Fire types, and even some pretty decent Psychic types, like... I know Charizard is in this format, and this shreds this team 8 different fucking ways. It's just tough, you know? Like, you'd have to rely on, like, yeah, I don't know, it just seems a bit tough and a bit hard to really check the stuff and have a longer game, which I think this team might kind of need to do. It also has 0 Fairy Resists, but, like, it's got the best Fairy in the format, I think, so, I don't know, who cares? But... you know, I don't know, man. I also don't like that it doesn't have the grounded poison, I guess, which, you know, plays into the no fair resist. I don't know. I'm sure this team's fine. I just didn't like it. It didn't spark joy. It just doesn't spark joy. Alrighty. So, yeah, by the way, I think most of these explanations are going to be like, oh yeah, this team's okay, but I don't like it. Because I will say, I don't think that there's that many deviations on the power level here. I think most teams are around the same, but this just isn't one I vibe with. Anyway, at 15, we've got... oh yeah, I'll also talk about the logo. That's a pretty good logo. I do like it. Yeah. And we got William D with the Pensacola Pelipper. I don't know if I like furry, or fluffy Pelipper. It's just... it looks cursed and haunted to me. But this team has, you know, it's... again, it's another just kind of meh team, in my opinion. Primeape is an interesting choice for an 18-pointer in this meta. I understand why it's there. It's got Rage Fist, and it's got EVO. Oh yeah, I probably should have mentioned this before, actually. There are some specific rules about this format. Weather setting abilities are banned, besides, I think, Sand Spit on Sandaconda. I'm not going to check that, though. And I think terrain moves are legal, though. And what was the other one? Oh yeah, no Shed Tail and also no Terrestrialization. That's important. Otherwise, I think Primeape would be really fucking good. But I think it's just kind of, like, it's okay, but I don't know if it's 18 points, just because, like, I get it, it's bulky, it's got Eviolite, it can set up, but it's still a Primeape? I don't know. Yeah, like, positives of this team is that this has some pretty good hazards and some decent removal. You've got, I think, 2 rapid spinners here in Sandslash and Eldegoss, which is nice. But and it's got some pretty good, decent physical threats, and then, you know, you set up ones like Cloth and, I guess, Sword Stance, Rapid Spin, Sandslash, that sort of thing. Like, it can win games, but the special presence on this team doesn't fucking exist. Like, the strongest special attacker is Viper, which isn't really a special attacker, because most of its, I guess, positive traits are its physical move pool. So, like, it's actually only Raichu to really provide the special oomph that this team might need. Which, you know, like, it's kind of meh. Walrein's also there, but it's also, I think, like, both of them have less than 100 special attack. Now, 100 special attack is really good in this meta. But, you know, it's just a bit lacking. Like, if you get a Pokemon, a physically bulky Pokemon that can kind of wall Raichu, like a good ground, then this team really might struggle to break it. Like, Walrein, I guess, is okay. There's also the positives of, there's a lot of good knockoff. I can't remember who gets it. I think, does Primeape get it? I don't know, but I know Sandslash gets it, and I think Raichu. Like, there's a fair few knockoff mons, I think, from here, from what I remember. So that's nice, but there's also the issue of only having 1 Ghost Resist and a no Psychic Resist. There's also, like, 1 Fairy Resist, but again, it's not that relevant. I think this probably has the 2nd best Fairy in the meta, in good old Duxbund. But yeah, like, there are just some Ghost types that are really going to ruin this team because the switch-in is Squawk ability. And then there's some Psychic types that are going to ruin this team because their switch-in is, yeah. You know. So I think that's kind of why it's a bit low, and just a lack of vibes, really, besides Raichu. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just gonna keep saying I don't know. You know, it's really tough to, like, talk about why one team is substantially worse than the rest of them in this sort of weird low power meta, because I could be talking out of my ass completely. Alrighty. Number 14, Poipus, the Pied Poipus, with the Chicago Songbirds. And that's a pretty fucking fire logo, I gotta say. I really like that. So I'm gonna start. Why is this so low? And the answer is, well, there's no Psychic Resist, there's no Dragon Resist, there's 1 Fighting Resist, there's 1 Dark Resist, there's 1 Normal Resist, and there's 1 Flying Resist. I am gonna say it right now. Every fucking type in the game beats this team offensively. Like it just beats it. Like, it's got no switch-ins to fucking anything. Like, this team is, like, also not that fast, and there's nothing, like, that amazingly bulky here. You know, like, there's some decent bulk mons, I guess, like Kamala and Quillfish is fine, but there's nothing amazing. So I guess, why is this team not last? And the answer is there's Shell Smash, and there's 2 of them. So Shell Smash is a bit of a menace in low tiers and low power level formats, and it's got Crustle and Gorbius, and they can both Shell Smash and attack on opposite ends of the physical special spectrum, which is pretty neat, meaning that it can sort of figure out which one's the best, or even just bring both and, you know, use one to weaken the checks to the other, that sort of thing. So if it can chip the right things, not die, and then position everything properly, it's pretty cool. Like, you know, there are games that this team is going to be able to win if piloted appropriately, but, like, who fucking knows, eh? Like, I don't know if it can do it just because of all the glaring weaknesses it's got type-wise. Like, it really struggles to switch into anything. Like, it really does. It does have some decent immediate power with Dodrio, and Thraw is a bit of a setup threat as well. So it does have its ways to win, it does have its ways to break, and it's got Quillfish to sort of set the spikes and do some intimidates, you know, sort of help pivot around physical threats. It's also got, like, Shroodle, which is kind of funny here, and I do like Shroodle, actually, here, because it has Prankster Rain Dance for the Gorbius. If you don't want to bring Shell Smash, if you just feel like clicking Hydro Pump and Rain is good, and it's also after the like Trudel after the Rain Dance has Parting Shot for Priority Pivot, which is really cool. Yeah. But there's also Rain for like Scarf Wailord, I guess. Like Scarf Wailord, Water Spout may be the source here. I don't know. I don't know if that ever works. Like the team also has like a lot of knockoff, I think, which is good. But its removal, I think, is only Kamala as well. Like if we're talking about hazards, like its removal is only Kamala. So while it can set them up pretty well, it relies on a okay Pokemon, but not an amazing Pokemon to remove them. But I guess there are worse Pokemon to come every week than Kamala. Like, basically, to sum it up, I think this team really needs to... Like, it's really going to depend on how well... It's really going to depend on how well it's piloted, you know what I mean? Like, this team needs to focus on positioning, getting some calls right, weakening the right Pokemon, and bam, it can win. But I don't know if it can actually do any sort of long game just because of how compromised that is on the defensive side. And there are going to just be some teams that blow this team up, but then there are going to be some weeks where it just blows the fucking team up so badly that the other coach needs to go outside and, like, I don't know, look at birds, contemplate life, wonder why they're doing this sort of shit. Yeah, I don't know. Alrighty, 13, we've got M4 Ico, or Mifuriko. Team Perkwatch, and I do love that logo, it's very funny. Why is this team here? I don't remember. Oh yeah, that's right, this team made me have to actually research if Slush Rush works with Hail, which involved me playing a fucking Natdex game, so this was gonna be 12th, but it's now 13th because screw you. The answer is it does though, so that's cool. There aren't any good setters for Arctivish as Slush Rush, but, you know, it works. That's nice. You know, you can have Arctivish to set its Hail and then click Vicious Rend. That's cool. Typhlosion Hisui is the nuke button in this format, which is nice as well. Like, you've got Typhlosion and Arctivish as two nuke buttons, but obviously Typhlosion doesn't need to set its own Hail. I guess my sort of issue with this team is the best physical threat is Sneasel, which is fine, but not amazing. There are a few win cons on this team, so that's nice, and it is hard to tell which one's going to come. Like, actually, are there win cons? Am I talking out my ass? What did I say? Whatever. There's some decent Pokemon. Like, I think every Pokemon's kind of usable besides the Corphish, but there's no ground type here, which is a choice. And there's a lot of good electric types in this format. Like, there is a lot of really strong electric types in this, like, that are just around. Like, think of all the low tier sort of electrics in a standard draft. They're all here, and they're all good. So this team's going to be Volt switched on for days, and I don't think it has a... Does it have a rocker? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, that's also bad. So, like, no ground, no rocker really made me dislike this team, which is why it's actually here, not the having to research Slush Rush. Yeah, so, like, electric types are just going to be a fucking nightmare for this team. Like, they have Quilladin, but I think, is Quilladin the... Quilladin and Sliggoo are the two ground resists... No, sorry, electric resists, which are... Again, oh yeah, and Pico. Yeah, like, I guess it resists it okay, but still, just having no sort of switch into Volt Switch and just being pivoted on isn't fun. It's only got one Ghost Resist as well, but it's got the strongest Ghost, so, like, does that fucking matter? I don't know. There's only one viable knocker as well, which is a Selgor. Yeah. Like, there's two Spikers, but, like, Selgor I don't even think can fit knockoff. I don't know if it can fit Spike, so it's really, like, one decent hazard option, and it's just like a lot of things that this team's really lacking in just draft that are really important, I suppose. So while the individual mons are cool and there is some decent vibes here, Selgor's cool, Typhlosion's cool, any Sneasel's cool, Morpeko, a very cool guy, I just couldn't put it too high because it just commits the draft sins of not having the rockers to actually, what's it? And its default's fine, it's got Togetic. But yeah, like it just commits that sort of draft sin, I suppose. So that's why it's here and not higher. It honestly, if it had like a rocker, if it had like a ground type, this team would be way higher, because then it would have a rocker and something to do against Volt Switch, but at the moment, yeah. Anyway, number 12 is Lobulus with the Regigigas Harem. I do like that everyone in the Regigigas Harem, besides obviously the big man himself, is a tomboy. That's important. Because that is a tomboy bunny, so, you know, tomboy represent. This team, what do I have to say about it? It's a pretty fast team in the general scheme of this format, and the fast Pokemon are all pretty decent. Like, there's a lot of good knockoff. There's only 2 rockers, and I don't know if either of them consistently come to games, though. What are the rockers? It's Tinkertuff and it's Golem. Yeah, I don't think either of them are in the top 6, or even 7, eh? Like Centiskorch, Dipplin, Hitmonchan, Haunter, Boltund, Jinx. I think possibly Golduck are all better than it. So that's tough. This is a team, I don't know, it's a team where all 11 Pokemon are kind of bringable. Which is good, but like it's really flexible. But there's nothing here, like Centiskorch is a great Pokemon, and like Boltund and Jinx are pretty cool. But there's nothing where I think, oh my god, this is terrifying. Like, if I'm prepping against this team, there's no needle movers, I guess, which is why it's a bit down here, just because it's like, I don't know, it's just a fine team. Like, yeah, they're all neat win cons. Jinx is really freaking good in this sort of format. Like, Rain Dance Golduck, I guess, is cool. But there's nothing here where I just look at it and go, holy crap. If I don't deal with XYZ, it's gonna, you know, destroy me. You know? Whereas other teams, there's like, I'd be scared prepping into certain Pokemon, but this one, not so much. The team's fine, maybe it's a bit too low, but I don't know. You know, quite like, you know, like this isn't like baking, it's not very exact. You know, it's more like science where it's not exact. Anyway, we'll just move on quickly, because I don't have anything else to say about this team. Like, it's just tough to talk about. I don't know. I'm just moving on before I make too much of an idiot of myself. Alrighty, we got Eligno, with the Celesteela Celebes. Celestial Celebes, not the Celesteela Celebes. I like this team vibes-wise. It's pretty neat. It's got a lot of Pokemon I really like, especially Palisand. There's a decent amount of Rain Dance molds here, if I recall correctly, with Floatzel, which just seems absolutely fucking unwallable. Like, Wave Crash Floatzel is just gonna kill everything. There's a defensive core here of Palisand and Appleton, which, like, I thought was pretty good when I first looked at it, but the more I look at it, the more I'm like, eh. Like, they share the ice weakness, and this team doesn't love ice types. Like, a decent water-type Pokemon that's got Ice Beam is gonna fuck this team up. Which is a bit of an issue. It's also got Sand/Alola for, you know, Snow/Rush shenanigans. But I don't know what sets Hail or Snowscape here. Maybe Plusle does? Maybe that's an option. Like, vibes-wise, like, vibes I do like the team, but it's just got the its issues really are that it's got one Ghost Resist and one Rock Resist, which isn't great. I don't like the shared weaknesses of Palisand and Appleton, even though they are both Gs. Like, Scyther is going to be a menace to deal with here, but it's held back really badly by its defensive typing and the fact that, well, this team is weakened to a lot of the sort of types that are good into it. It's not great into fires either. Like, it's bad into ice, it's bad into rock. I don't know. The removal here isn't amazing either, so you're probably going to have to want to run Boot Scyther as opposed to, like, better items on it. Like, what's the removal? Is it just Sand Slash? No, Sand Slash is a decent spinner, I guess. Actually, does Cottony have Defog? Maybe Cottony has Defog. And I think the other one is the immediate special presence isn't amazing. Like, your two big boy special attackers are Palisand and Appleton. And, like, they're defensive Pokemon. So I don't know how often they're going to be able to invest in their special attack in this sort of team in matchups. Because I think after that it's like Floatzel, which is just a way better physical attacker. So there is some issues that I have with that, where it's like, where's the special offense? But, I mean, you know, it's a decent team outside of that, really. I just keep saying that. Like, it's got T-Spikes, it's got a couple of really good rockers, so it can set up the hazards, and it does have ways, like, Palisand and Appleton are very, very good Pokemon. Like, while they can't really invest in their special attacks, it does mean that in this format especially, they're not passive, so having two really bulky walls that can actually threaten to punch other Pokemon in the face is pretty positive. But yeah, that's about it. Like, it's honestly could be a little bit higher, but I've been saying this, like, I'm gonna probably say this for every frickin' team, so who knows. Alrighty, number 10, we've got Labs with the Toronto Iron Thorns. This is a cool logo as well, by the way. I quite like that. So, positives is that this team, like, it's got really good removal, and it's pretty bulky, with some decent sort of recovery options. Like, it's actually a really cool, bulky offense sort of draft. Like, this team could be really annoying to break through, and it still can punch you in the face really well. I think, is this one of the teams that, like, it's week 2 at the moment when I'm recording this, and I think this team did play, and I'm fairly sure Torres Paldea kind of swept the opposition team, but they played on not Showdown, so the replay was broken. But I feel like this is a team, like, obviously what happened in round 1 is going to matter much, but, like, I think this is a team that can definitely just be annoying as fuck to break through. But I'm not, it's not 100% sure about some of the stuff here. Like, having only one knockoff mon is pretty annoying, and that's Toedscruel. And Toedscruel is a Pokemon that, like, I flip on in terms of opinion all the time, and at the moment I'm pretty low on it, so sorry you're being dragged down by that. Like, it's a funny standing guide, but it moving last for a lot of stuff is lame. This team, I think, only has 2 Pokemon with pivot moves, maybe? Which is a little annoying. And yeah, Toedscruel's the only knocker, so it might actually struggle to, while it's bulky itself, it might struggle to break some of the other bulky teams. And it does also have Pokemon that do probably want to be pivoted in, like Cursola is a Pokemon with a very specific matchups and very specific Pokemon that's great into and that it's terrible into. So having, like, a ton of pivots to get Cursola in seems pretty cool, but this team doesn't really have that, you know what I mean? Like, it's got Pokemon that do like the opportunity to provide momentum, and it doesn't have it that much. It's also got some decent setup stuff as well, I think. Like, Rapidash Gala is cool. Magneton is really sick, because it's just a really good Pokemon. It hits like a truck, and it can trap the other steel types in this format really well. I think the only one it probably can't is like a Spadef Copperaja. Drampa being like an actual dragon as well is crazy. I'm trying to think of fully evolved dragons in this format, and I think there are 3. I might be wrong about that, but I'm fairly sure it's 3. Actually, it might be 4. But, like, it's not that many options, and Drampa is a really, really, really good one, because it's got Roost and all that. Yeah, and it does also appreciate having Steels be bad, or removed by Magneton, or not in the meta. So it might be kind of cool. Yeah. Vibes-wise, though, I mean, it's got the Rapidash Gala, and, like, whilst I don't love Toedscruel as an actual Pokemon, big vibes there, and big vibes there with Magneton. Yeah, you know. Oh yeah, Torres Paldea is probably, like, crazy here. I think both Tauroses are insane, but we'll get to the other Tauros later, okay? Number 9, we've got Arce's 502 Cannon. Jolteon is a menace in this format because it's really fast, it has Calm Mind, and that's cool. This is also a decently bulky team besides Jolteon and I think Mr. Mime if it's not got Eviolite. This team's kind of bulky. And Jolteon is going to be an annoying fucking jerk to every single team, but just with, like, you know, Specs moves punching you in the face. I know, I really like Jolteon in this meta. It's like one of the fastest Pokemon available, I think. And with Calm Mind, like, it can also be a setup threat. I don't know. It's a good Pokemon. But, like, it's got somewhat iffy removal. I think it's only Mr. Mime Galar as removal, and maybe Default Lurantis. And it's also got one resistant to Rock and one resistant to Fairy. Again, Fairy's useless, so let's completely ignore it. The Rock weakness is a bit of an issue with Mr. Mime and Bombardier being weak to it, but, you know. It also compounds the sort of issue with the meh removal on this team. Lurantis is pretty cool. I love the contrary sweepers. I know it can't Terra, Stella, or whatever to really contrary sweep, but, you know, Leaf Storm superpower seems like it can really get out of hand here and ruin someone. There's also, like, I just think, like, Jolteon, Kangaskhan, Bombardier, and Lurantis can really punch people in the face, and Corsola Galar, it's a really good defensive Pokemon. Carbink is a decent defensive Pokemon, like, and Poliwrath, I think, is actually, like, has a really good typing for this sort of meta. Being immune to water, resisting rocks seems good when there's some of the better types running around. Yeah, it's a decent team. It's just, I think it's just slightly, I really think just, it's pretty arbitrary in the midpoint of this draft, where I put teams and why. Maybe this one's too high, I don't know. That's a sick fucking logo though. 502 Cannon. Alrighty, number 8. Got Risachi. See, the thing is, I can't pronounce shit, so if I just, like, purposely mispronounce everything, then no one can tell if I can pronounce stuff or not. We got them with the Snowpoint Swinubs. This team's cool. It's got Meganium, so, like, highest vibes possible. It's got some decent knockoff Pokemon, and Archeops is a fucking problem in this tier, is really just what I gotta say. Like, it's so fucking strong, that, yeah, it's really strong. And, like, every fucking team I've talked about is weak to rock. So this guy can punch you in the face, and, you know, you just gotta deal with it. Like, that attack stat, and that speed stat as well. Crazy. Like, the problems with this team are there's one fighting resist, one fairy resist, and this is another team with one rock resist, but you got Archeops, and maybe that's fine. Like, the fairy, again, doesn't matter, but the fighting is a bit of an issue. Like, I guess you got Grand Bull, which is a pretty good fighting check, and, oh yeah, you've got Wormadam, actually. But, like, the problem is, so Wormadam can technically fix a lot of those issues. Wormadam can become, like, can be, you know, the grass or the ground one to resist fighting, and it can be the steel one to resist, I think, fairy is the one I said? Yeah, fairy. But, like, if that's happening, you're bringing fucking Wormadam, which, like, I don't know if you want. Like, I guess it's got Quiver Dance. Is it the only, like, actual mon with Quiver Dance? There might be Butterfree, but I don't know if that's drafted. So, like, maybe just the fact that it's got Quiver Dance is enough, because any sort of multi-stat setup moves kind of fucking busted here. But, I don't know. Just, I don't know why I'm talking about Wormadam. I like Wormadam. Like, it's got good Scarf options as well with Tatsugiri and Skuntank, and it really can hit you in the face. Like, Crample is a good bulky Pokemon, but it's also just a strong Pokemon. It is actually probably the strongest fairy attacker in this format. So, you know, maybe the issues with fairies a bit bit more of a thing than I sort of first thought. Because it doesn't have like 130 attack or something. I don't know, maybe I'm misremembering. I'm just so used to seeing it run defensively, but it can't really punish people offensively in this meta. Tatsugiri is one of the few dragons that are around. Like, it's... Even just Scarf Draco Meteor is going to really hurt stuff here. And Skuntank with Sucker Punch is also just sort of pushes the issues, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. This team's fine. This team's pretty fine. I think I had something about... Sorry, I'm just looking at my actual notes that I'm looking at here. Yeah, it's not great into ice types as well, besides Reboot, but Reboot can switch types, because Carvana isn't an anything resist. I guess there's Steel Wormadam to help, but... yeah, I don't know. Good team. Again, I keep saying it, but I like this team. Okay, number 7. We've got Kesha with password is Tapu Koko, and this is my favorite, logo so far, which helps the vibes bigly, so that's important. There's some really big threats on this team. Braviary, Persimmon, and Houndoom are gonna eat the fucking opponent's lunch, and really just sort of put the hurting on them a lot. Houndoom especially, like Dark and Fire, is such a difficult type to resist, and in such a low power level little format, I think it can really go ham here. I was going to talk about Shedtail, but that's when I actually looked up the rules and learned that Sceptile doesn't get Shedtail, but that's fine, because Sceptile is still a strong, decent Pokemon. The Swords Dance set's good, the just like Specs Leafstorm set will be good. Yeah, that's pretty good. The issue is, it's weakened to Fightings, like, it's only got Dusclops to resist, I'm fairly sure. And then it's, like, meh into Fairy as well, with I think only one to resist, that's Stunfisk Geller, but that's okay. Yeah, it's really okay. Like, Stunfisk Geller is a weird Steel type, because you think, oh, well, they set Terrain, and then it's, like, not a Steel type, but I think there was only one Terrain set drafted, so, look, in one matchup that's going to matter, but none others. I'm dying. There's only like one knockoff Pokemon. Actually, no, there's two. There's Persimmon, and then there's the Big Wiggle. I don't know if the Big Wiggle is like a Pokemon, but you know, it's cool. It's only got what are its removal options? It's Mr. Rhyme and I think Braviary, and that's it. So that's a bit of an issue. I do like the Frogadier though. Frogadier is a very strong Pokemon here. Like, even with the nerf to Protean. It has Protean, right? Yeah, Protean. It's quite strong. Lanturn is also just a strong guy. I don't know, like, just talking about random Pokemon about how they're strong. Like, this team has a lot of threats, it's got a lot of good Pokemon. They synergize kind of well, and it can really muscle over some of the other teams in this competition, I think. Alrighty, number 6. Hatster with the Wichita Zap. That is a gorgeous logo. That is... Whew, put it on a post-modern art exhibit and it'll go for millions. Right off the bat, there's a lot of strong Pokemon. Like, I refuse to actually check and do my research here, but I'm fairly sure Eggy's the best dragon in the format. I don't think Trotagon would be in the format, so it probably is Eggy, honestly. Like, I think it's better than the other dragons. And in a format where you've been looking at steel types, or it's like, what's been the best steel type so far? Possibly Stunfisk Galar. That's, you know, it's not good. This team, I think I've said a lot, but this team is just full of really strong guys that are going to punch you in the face, take your lunch money, and then, like, you know, just, like, steal your girl, hole up, I don't know. It's strong. There's also, like, a bit of a, like Berserker is a steel type, and it's one of, I think it's, like, one of the highest valued steel types. I think there's one other that's in, like, 1718. And while it's not, like, an amazing steel type, it is a terrifyingly strong physical attacker. Like, this team has a whole lot of breakers, and Pokemon that are really going to put the hurting on you, so that Pyro can clean up, Pinsir can clean up, Liepard can clean up. It does have a mini Trick Room mode with Rune and Berserker as well. Like even Pikachu with the Light Orb's a bit of a threat. But this team does have a couple of big issues. So Xatu is the only actual hazard counterplay. It's the like it is the Defog and it's also the Magic Bounce. So you're really gonna need to like have a be able to call like you're really gonna need a words. You're really gonna need to like know when your opponent's setting rocks and the Zap can come in and bounce them back, because this team like it also isn't good into rocks. It's got it's got 2 resists. Okay, that's fine. And the team doesn't have that much longevity. Like none of these Pokemon besides like the Pikachu, and I guess the Liepard, like none of them are ultra frail, but none of them have like ways of longevity. I think Exeggutor has Synthesis, Xatu has like Roost. That's about it. So they can be sort of chipped into stuff, which does make the rocks issue a bit worse. Like attacks are weaker into this format, so maybe it's not as bad as I think. Like, yeah. I do think there is, like, a real position for this team to be a sneaky Trick Room team, but it doesn't have to be, which is quite cool. Like, it can just run fast and punch you in the face, or it can, like, set Trick Room with Xatu or Rune, and then either Rune can attack, or Eggy Alola can attack, or Berserker can attack. And that's kind of cool. Like, Eggy actually sets for itself, doesn't it? Yeah. Like, the more I talk about this team, the more I do like this team. Like, this team was originally not that highly placed, but the more I sort of looked at it and looked at the other teams, I was like, damn, maybe this is the guy. Maybe this is the team. The other sort of weakness it's got is it's got 1 Dark Resistant Liepard, which you don't want that to be a Dark Resist. Besides that, yeah, the team's fine. I quite like it. Yeah. Decent team. It's gonna really, really put the hurting on some people. Alrighty, number 5, we've got Queen of the Roses with the Prismatic Palkias. This team is this high because of vibes and vibes alone. Like, it's a fine team. But, I love Tauros, and I love Basculin, and I love Weezing, and I love Ampharos, and I love Altaria. Like, and there is gonna be a game where you run all of those Pokemon, and that's really cool, and I love it, and this team, I fucking love it. I think Tauros is the best Pokemon in this format, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think the Ghost types are terrible, and I think that it can just delete everything else. It's gonna be really tough to, like, actually play around, besides, like, out-offensing it, I guess, or just, like, Scarf Revenging it. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy. Like, what the hell survives the sheer force body slams and close combats and throat chops and crap? I don't know. It's just broken. And then it's also got Basculin, and Basculin is like one of the other best offensive Pokemon in this meta, because it just clicks water moves a lot, and that's kind of cool. I will say though, I don't love the fact that the Grass type is also a Fire type on this team, because water is like, I guess the way you check Basculin, and Scovillain's not great into opposing waters, but then again, it's really good into opposing grasses, so who knows. Yeah, there's also, like, some good defensive Pokemon in Weezing, like, Mawile, I think can be okay here. It's got some pivots, like Ampharos, and it's also got Cutiefly for webs, and pivot, I guess. And then Basculin has Flip Turn, like, it can it's got some okay pivot, it would probably like a little more. And Altaria, like, it's not a great looking Pokemon, but it's a Dragon type, and Dragon in this format, because all the Fairies are bad, and all the Steels are bad, Fairies are really good. Sorry, not Fairy, Dragons are really good. Like, the premium types in regular, I think, are just so premium here, that even with a Pokemon like Altaria, it's strong. Like, it is probably in the top 5 Dragon types in this format. Like, I don't know. One Ghost Resist is pretty meh, and the Ghost Resist is, what is it, Tauros? Which you don't really want to switch into much, I think, is the problem with Tauros. Like, Tauros in this is probably like Gen 1 Tauros, I'm gonna say. You know, like, where everyone talks about that really broken Pokemon. But the only sort of issue with Gen 1 Tauros in Gen 1, from what I can tell, is that you don't ever want to send Tauros out unless you're pretty confident it can win. And I think this team is similar. You don't want to send Tauros out unless you're pretty confident it can win. Yeah. But yeah, pretty good gravy. I like the team, but a lot of it's just due to vibes, I think. It's still decent, it's still fine, it still hits you. I think Miles showed me his rankings and this team was way lower, and 100% might have been because of vibes, but hey. Alrighty. Number 4, the Wombat Baby. South Bend Snoms. Yeah, I'm gonna start this. Whilst this is a high ranking team, I'm gonna start this. For the love of fucking god, man, get another hazard remover. I will say, this was written before I realized that this was Napdex, like my sort of notes and my sort of thoughts about this team. So with Rotom having Defog, it is a little better, but it's still an issue. Like this team is top heavy, right? Like an old Florida man who's furious at climate change protesters, this team is packing some heat, and it's gonna shoot some people in the face. Sork, Farigiraf, Zard, the Guzzler, Rotom, like even Rhydon, those are all Pokemon that I am terrified of in the builder. Whilst there are definitely Pokemon that can beat them, it's going to be very difficult for a team to have all those Pokemon that can beat them. It's crazy. It's really strong. I think the bad things about this team, though, is that this team does want a Pokemon that can beat Waters. Like, Charizard is bad into Waters, and Rhydon is bad into Waters. And it's got the Rotom, but Rotom's not the bulkiest. And if it had, like, a decent Grass type, like, that isn't fucking Jump Off, then it would be, like, and it could actually, like, reliably switch into Water types and actually, like, beat them one-on-one, then it would be probably the highest ranked team. Like, I love Jump Off in PGC, I think it's really cool, but in singles, it just isn't it. Like, really the only use it's gonna have, like, I guess it can Sleep Powder and crap, but the main, like, it's got, like, a Sleep Powder set, which, like, I guess is okay into Waters, and then I can run, like, its stupid SD Acrobatic set, but that doesn't beat Water types either, especially, like, if they just bring Ice Beam, and then it's just done. But then again, yeah, and they probably do bring Ice Beam, so they have something to hit Guzzlord. I don't know. It just doesn't clear the Waters for Zard, and it's got, like, it's got 3 knockers, but 2 of them are, like, the best at it, so that's cool. It does only have 2 Pokemon with a pivot move, Rotom and Jump Off. So maybe, you know, maybe Jump Off's important for that, but then just get rid of Dugong or some shit. I don't know what Dugong's doing here. Yeah. I wouldn't mind more hazards either, but I don't know. These are all kind of small nitpicks on this team, where it's really strong. Like, Charizard, Guzzlord, Sork, and Rotom breaking for, like, a Farigiraf setup. Like a double dance or just an agility, sword, like Carmine sword power set. I don't know, seems really good. Like, I don't know how you get that top 6 and it's not a good team, really. I really like it. It's gonna bring the fucking pain. Alrighty, number 3. T-Row. With the See, again, I'm going to say the name every single way it could possibly be pronounced, so I'm going to get one of them right. You know? I probably didn't even get it right. The Toldeo Mudkips. This team's a very good vibes team. It's got Ursaring. Very good vibes. This team's kind of full of Pokemon that if they get a turn, they will just ruin your fucking life. Like, Ursaring, Toxicroak, Oricorio are all major threats that if they get, like, the turn to set up, it's kind of done. Or, like, if they get the turn to, like, do what they want to, it's really tough to come back from it. And all the ones are actually pretty bringable here. Actually, I think they all are, really, like, even Watchog. There aren't too many hazards, but there's enough. It's like there's Claydol and Clefairy with rocks and Cacturne with spikes. And I think, does Toxicroak have poison spikes? I don't know, for some reason I think it does and I think it doesn't. Like, it's a fine team. Like, it's actually all going to be about if this team can position itself to break. It actually reminds me of, who was the person that had all of the, all the Shell Smashers? Poipoise? Poipoise. Yeah, it reminds me of that team a little bit. and that I can't pronounce either of the coaches' names, but also that, you know, like, this is a team about positioning yourself, setting up, and then winning, I think. But the difference being, this team is just a good team that has, like, good defensive matchups into stuff, and, like, doesn't need to, like, desperately race the clock to do it. Yeah, like, this team, I think, is way more, it's just a way better version of it, although it doesn't have the immediate setup power. Like, I think it really can just position itself to win matches, and, like, even its bulky Pokemon, besides, like, maybe Claydol, are pretty decent, actually Clefairy as well, but, like, Doublade and Wishiwashi are bulky Pokemon, and Eviolite Ursaring as well, I guess, pretty bulky Pokemon, but they hit like a truck. Yeah, Doublade does seem really strong here, like, especially there are some teams with bad knockoff, it's just gonna bully the teams with bad knockoff. Yeah, good team. Alrighty, it's a Copperaja, and it's on this channel. Take it away, Donald Trump.
Boy, they're big.
Big guy.
Big guy.
Big guy.
He's your big guy in town, folks.
Big guy. Strong, tough. Strong man, big, tough guy.
This is a big, tough guy. A very, very powerful guy. Big, strong guy.
Big, strong guy.
Big, strong guy.
This big, strong guy comes to me.
He's big, he's strong.
Yeah, I think Copperaja is a big man. I love Copperaja. He's a massive guy. He's a big, powerful guy. He's perfect. It's a big vibes moment. He is possibly the best steel in the format. And, like, there's an X-Cloud here, and dear god, that is a shouty man. It's a big shouty man, a big tough shouty man. Why am I just fucking calling everything on this damn team big? Because then there's Big Luvani coming up. I don't know. I'd prefer maybe some more pivots on this team, but I want pivots on every fucking team. If it was up to me, Pokemon would just be nothing but, like, every team would just have Pokemon click U-turn and Volt Switch and Flip Turn and Parting Shot. That would be all the movesets on all the Pokemon ever. If that's what Pokemon would be if it were up to me. So, I don't know. I like this team. It's got good power in the fact that Exploud is a just Pokemon deleter here, and Copperaja is also a bit of a Pokemon deleter. And it's also got webs for those two Pokemon deleters, so like Copperaja doesn't help us much, but Exploud, with its speed tier, the webs are really fucking important. Like, making some faster, like a 90, 100 base Pokemon slower than Exploud is just crazy for it. It's gonna go wild. And Levani is actually, like, it's got a terrible defensive type, but it's not a bad Pokemon, and it can set webs pretty decently. Only one Defogger is a little cringe, but it's got Magic Bounce with Hatcham to make up for a little bit. Hatcham can also be a win condition, like, so can Rapidash as well. The Ghoulgeist is pretty interesting here. I think, the, like, being able to really position it to matchups is going to help this team pretty well. Oh, it's also got Dragon Dance Wishcash for setup, that's pretty cool. Yeah. I don't know. Like, the customizability, as I said, of Ghoulgeist is really cool. Yeah, I quite like it. Like, I think this team is going to punish a lot of teams. It's going to break teams with Exploud. And it's going to set up with Rapidash, with Hatcham, with, like, Wishcash, I guess. And it's going to punch people in the face. But number one is because Miles paid me a lot of money. Because it's rigged, of course. The mod is at number one. Yeah, the Helsingborg Haunted... Helsingborg, there we go. Oh, I hope you all hate the way I'm pronouncing everything. This is just a neat terrain team, so the vibes are off the charts. Like, the thing with vibes is that if you have wacky little synergies, I love it. And this is just wacky little terrain synergy of the team. It's got, you know, it's got Grafaiai, it's got Balloon Boy, it's got, like, Big Crab Hand Man, and it's got Swiper No Swiping to take advantage of the grassy terrain. Like, Claritza shooting Terrain Pulse from Mega Launcher is kinda strong. Claritza's just a strong guy in general. And yeah, then the other three Unburdened Pokemon can really smash it out. Like, Miles' reverse sweep in his week 1 game, again, this was tiered before then, but to give you an example, he was in a bad position, Thievul came in, got the unburden off, got a turn and won. And I think this team is a team that can really do that to teams. But it's also got other Pokemon that are decent into terrain, like Gerda is actually pretty good into terrain, because if you have a Flame Orb on it, it isn't actually getting chipped by Flame Orb, so it can break stuff kind of well. I guess weakening Earthquakes for Magcargo is nice. Yeah, and also giving Klinklang some reliable sort of healing is nice. I think the only major problem I have with this team is that it's got the 2 rockers of Vibrava and Magcargo, and like Magcargo isn't a fucking Pokemon, and Vibrava, I don't know if it's going to come every week. Like, you cannot convince me Magcargo is a Pokemon. Like, my favorite thing about Magcargo is people finding out that it's Pokemon from Gen 2 and not Gen 3, because I was one of those people as a kid. I played a lot of Gen 2, like Pokemon Silver was my first Pokemon game, and then I got Pokemon Ruby, and then I caught Slugma, and I'm like, oh, this must be a Gen 2 Pokemon. And then I was a teenager before I learned Slugma was so this must be a Gen 3 Pokemon. And then I was a teenager before I found out Slugma was Gen 2, because apparently it is just one fucking trainer has it in the whole game, and you can catch it on like 2 routes. I don't know what that side thing's about, but I don't know. This is a strong team. Didn't have any real defensive issues. It actually also does, I should say, it's only hazard removing options in Defog. It doesn't have a spinner, and I would really like a spinner here, because being able... sorry guys. And girls, I don't know. The only hazard removal being Defog is lame because it gets rid of your terrain, and this is a terrain team, so being able to remove hazards by a spin would I think this team would greatly sort of appreciate it. So that's a bit of an issue with the team, but besides that, I don't know, it's really strong, I quite like it. Good stuff. Yeah, so this was the power rankings. Again, better late and terrible and done by myself than never, I suppose. I just want you all to know that this ranking was not about how viable the teams are. They were 100% personal comments and attacks on you as a human being. Like, if you're unhappy with your placement, what you don't want to complain to me. What you want to do is you want to go to a counselor and work out the deep psychological issues that you have. Because you're a bad person, and I've judged that, and I can do that because I have a degree in psychology. I'm a psychologist. What the fuck is this ending? Yeah, look, this is over, thank God. These placements are really arbitrary, but I hope all 5 of you still listening at this point enjoyed it. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, validate my existence. Send this video to 8 people with the text that if they don't send it to another 8 people, they'll die in 3 days. Hack your local radio station to play this instead of the 6 o'clock news. And, I'll see you guys next time.